Hi folks, this is Jared Nickel in Hildale, Utah. And I'm going to do another video to go over some information that I think is critical when it comes to our local government, which is Hildale City. I'm sorry I should have done and posted this sooner, but I hope it's better late than never. And I hope that you find this information useful and helpful. So I see zero improvement with Hildale City when it comes to conflicts of interest. I requested the written disclosures of conflict of interest, and it was very minimal, the information that I got, and then in public meetings there's just no real disclosures being made. And so I just see that there's been zero, they've addressed it, they have not addressed it, and that it remains a huge problem. Today I'm just going to go over 3 different items, and I'm going to break them down. A lot of times I'm accused of spreading rumors, I'm accused of spreading crap, and here I'm going to show you that it's just this is just the facts. I have receipts for everything, so you can see kind of what goes on behind the scenes and what should be disclosed, what should be clear when these decisions are being made or these things are being authorized, and it's just there's just no effort being made whatsoever that I can see. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be going over 3 different items. There's 2 petitions to vacate property that I'm going to be talking about. One of them already passed. It was back in July when it actually passed, and so they've actually vacated these roads here, but I'm just going to talk about the connections that are there and that should have been disclosed. There is another petition to vacate that is in the works, and it's been kicked forward a couple of months because there are some things that the city hadn't done properly, and so they kicked it forward, and so it should be on next month's agenda. So if you have anything to say about it, you can email the city or you can come to the meeting and give your 2 cents concerning it. But I'm going to be going over the connections and the conflicts of that one as well. And then the third one is going to be $5,000 that the city gave to a local nonprofit organization. It's SC Festivities. They're the ones who do the 4th of July is kind of their big event. But the city did give them $5,000, and so I just want to go over the connections of that as well. And if I can get through this fairly quick, I might have a bonus one for you at the end too, so stick around for that. So first of all, I'm going to go over this petition to vacate, which was on Juniper Street. Like I said, this passed back in July. So I'm just going to go over the property owners that were affected by this, just to show the connections that were there. So first of all, there's a vacant lot that's up here at the top that was affected, and so that one, it's going to be the blue. I'm going to have my daughter help me here. So the vacant lot was actually owned by Council Member Brigham Home. So we'll just make that connection there. There we go. Okay, and the second property here is owned by Uzona Holdings. Now, Uzona Holdings is actually Lee Barlow, so let's connect them there. And so Lee was the petitioner who filed all the paperwork. Now, Lee, we're going to make some connections here. Lee is also connected to Jeff and John Barlow because on the paperwork and then at the meetings, Lee had Jeff and John be the agents of his agents to give information and do certain things, and so there was that connection there as well. And then also, in a lot of the meetings when they were talking about vacating this property, they were talking about how they needed to bring this project into compliance. Now this is where they've got some cabins and things that they rent out, and so they're trying to get within compliance with the city. And so vacating the road was one of those things that Jeff said that was being done to help get in compliance. And so I just thought back in my mind, because I used to live on Juniper for quite some time, and I just remembered the history of the property, that the cabins themselves were actually being built when the city had a moratorium in place. And I just thought that was very weird that those cabins continued to be built. And I'm just wondering, and it's my feeling that being out of compliance, that's part of being out of compliance also. And so if you look at the property history, at the time that building was being done, it was a prior owner who owned the property. And so it's my opinion that when the prior owner owned it, that's when a lot of the things were happening that were out of compliance. And so if you want to do this blue, so the property owner was actually Elisa Wall at the time. So do that to number 2 there. Okay, and then third, there's a house that's up here on the corner, and so that house at the time was owned by Lee Barlow, but there's actually a connection because he had bought the home. Oh, we're going to have to switch these. He had bought the home from Brigham Home, and Brigham had carried a note as the lender when Lee bought the house. And so that itself was a big connection that I think should have been very clear of what was happening. So that's the one that's actually gone through and passed. At one of the meetings, Brigham did say that he had a conflict, but that's all that he stated. He didn't disclose what it was. There's nothing in his paperwork that goes over any of this information that I believe should have happened. And I think, especially with us being a small town, that it should be clear what it is that's going on. Now, second, I'm going to go over the petition to vacate that still is in process. And again, I'm just going to go over the homeowners or the property owners that are in the area and just kind of show the connections that it has to the city and to city officials that should be disclosing information. Now, number 1 is where they're going to be taking a piece of road right here that's going to be blocking the access to where the laundromat is, that building there. So now that one is actually owned by Jeff Barlow, and he owns it with Harrison Johnson. And then second is the building up. It's where the old clinic is. And so that one as well is affected by all these streets that are being vacated. And that is owned by Canyon Cove Property. And so that is actually Jeff Barlow that owns that as well. And he actually owns that with the Apple Valley mayor. And it's under Canyon Cove Properties. Now also in the building there is the corporate offices of Creek Valley Health Clinic. It's their Utah office, and I believe it's their corporate office of Creek Valley Health, and they're going to be affected by this street vacation. And so with Creek Valley, we've got, you want to come do some of these? So one of the, on the board of directors, we've got Councilman Terrell Musser. We've got another board of directors. On the board of directors is Harrison Johnson. Nope, right here.
Whoops.
We've got Harrison Johnson. And then on the board of directors, we also have Mayor Danya Jessup. And so again, all of this should have been disclosed, not only in the written paperwork, but also this is information that should be disclosed at the meeting itself. Now, also with Creek Valley Health Clinic, when it was first incorporated, the incorporator listed on all of the paperwork is Mayor Danya Jessup. So she's got, not only is she on the board of directors, but she's actually the founder or the incorporator of Creek Valley Health Clinic. And also, Jeff Barlow was helping because he did the name reservation application for Creek Valley and also was the statutory agent that was filed for Creek Valley. So that just kind of shows all the connections with that. And then also there's some properties up there owned by the UEP. And so obviously Jeff Barlow is the executive director of the UEP. And then also on the board of directors for the UEP is Mayor Danya Jessup.
Why did you put Mayor?
So, and then the last one on here, so in the building that Pivotal Medical Property owns is Custom Craft Cabinetry, and Custom Craft Cabinetry is owned by Brigham Home. So that is being affected by the vacation of the roads that they're trying to vacate, and also the access and things to the buildings. And so it's going to be affected by that. And then also being in that same building, it has, Brigham, his landlords are Jeff and Harrison. And just to be clear, again, on both of these petitions to vacate, the petitioner was Lee Barlow, I believe, on this one, and then Jeff and John were the agent petitioners, and then on this one, again, is Jeff and John as the petitioners or the agents to petition. So it just shows that there's all these connections that go on, and everything's tangled right here with the city. And then one other thing I didn't mention on this first one is that when the application comes in, the deputy city manager was taking the application, was processing it, and then would do up kind of a report of sorts that would give recommendation to the council of how the city thought it should move forward and how they should vote. And so the deputy city manager at the time was Harrison Johnson. Harrison Johnson no longer works for the city, but it's my belief that when this application was put in as well, that he did a lot of the heavy lifting on it and did a lot of the work. And so I can be corrected if I'm wrong, if I'm shown that I'm wrong, but I would believe that he did most of the heavy working and lifting, and that they just kind of picked up where he had left off on that. And so he, I believe, probably still did a lot of the recommendations and stuff on this petition as well, where the petitioner was, someone who he co-owned a business with, and also he has loans to John Barlow, and so he's a lender there as well. And again, on Harrison's written disclosures. It does mention some of this information, but it's still very vague the way that it's listed, and that it should be, in my opinion, should have been a lot more clear of what was going on. And so that just kind of shows a lot of the connections just with the petitions to vacate the roads. And then my third one is this $5,000 that was given to SC Festivities. And that's the thing, is I think that it's great that the city's able to help out with things like that. And I think that that's appropriate in itself. Again, I'm just talking about that when you have elected officials and appointed officials that are within the city, that there's not only expectations, but there's things that they're supposed to do by law. And one of the things is making these disclosures. So this should be very clear of what's going on. So again, it's not what's happening. It's not that we're giving $5,000 to help with a great community event. It's that there's people within the city that just aren't disclosing certain information. And this is just 3 things out of hundreds that are decided on just this year alone. So what else are we missing that, where they're, helping out their group of people, or there's cronyism. It's just something I just wish that was a lot more clear, and that should be a lot more clear. So with SC Festivities, one of the directors for them is Mayor Danya Jessup. And then we have another board of director, Serene Barlow. And a registered agent, and listed as the VP of SC Festivities is Council Member Terrell Musser. And then one of the committee members that's listed is Commissioner Elisa Wall. And so for me, again, I think it's great that the city's able to help them out, but the thing is that it's very clear that this information should be disclosed, and it is not. One of the items on the conflict of interest disclosure form is, I am an officer, a director, an agent, an employee, or an owner of substantial interest in the following business entities. So it's very clear that that's where this information should go. So this just kind of shows how a lot of things are connected, and how it's just not clear for whatever reason. I'm not sure. It's just not clear that that's really what's happening behind the scenes. Now, with the written disclosures, I had mentioned that Harrison did fill out some information about being a co-owner of Pivotal Medical Property, and also that he had made a loan and he had the property, but it wasn't clear that the loan was to John Barlow, and the business partner was Jeff Barlow, who had made these applications, and they have put in, I would say, dozens of applications for different things that were processed and that Harrison was a part of, that it just should have been disclosed. It should have been very clear what was going on, and it was not. Now, the bonus one I wanted to talk about, I just want to talk about it really quick, because I just think that it's very interesting. And so Councilman Home. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but like I said, he had sold this property up here on Juniper to Lee over a year ago. And so he had moved out of the house, and he had actually moved into a property that Lee owned in Colorado City. And so he had that connection there. But the main thing is that what I'm saying is that he no longer lived in Hildale. One of the key things of being a council member in a city is that you need to live within that city. There are some things that, there's some leeway, but how it's spelled out in the law, that if you're living outside of the city, whether it be your primary residence or even a secondary residence, if you live there for 2 months, then your seat is to be vacated from the city council. Now, like I said, he sold this over a year ago. I'm not sure exactly when he moved out, but I would assume that it's been roughly a year that he's been living in Colorado City. And just a couple of things that I noticed is at one of the public hearings when they were talking about the street vacation, it was actually in May. It was May 17th of this year. They were talking about this street vacation, and Councilman Holm talked about when he used to live there, they had certain problems with certain things. And so for me, May 17th, it was very clear that he wasn't living there, that he was living in Colorado City. And then just a month or two ago, there was another council member who brought it up that said, you know, I've heard that you don't live here. Brigham didn't address it in public or in the meeting, but after the meeting, he did say that he planned on moving back into Hildale, that he was actually going to be moving into, he said, John Barlow's home. And so I guess it's just one that John Barlow owns. So it looks like, you know, the Barlows, they've got, you know, his, where he needs to live kind of set, but it looks like, you know, he was hanging out in Colorado City just a bit too long. And again, like I've said in the past, I like Brigham. The thing is that I wish that he just would have stayed aware of how it was that his residence needed to be while he was on the council. I'm not sure, you know, if he just wasn't aware or what. But the thing is that it's clear that his seat should be vacated. That I feel that he should just step down and resign. Because it is, you don't live in the city, and it may be that you're planning on moving back or you have moved back, you know, here in the last little bit, but the seat should be vacated, in my opinion. So again, this is just information I want to be out there so people are aware of what's going on. I hope that this improves things within the city, because I think that this is vital information that should happen on the very lowest level of everything. This is where all this information should just be disclosed. It should just be clear what's going on. And then there's a lot of things that, you know, we don't have to be saying, well, why, what, you know, that there's just not going to be any questions, because it is. All they have to do is disclose it. It's very easy to disclose. And so I hope that this does improve things with the city. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you guys next time.